The creator was created by Gareth Edwards, director of Rogue One, Godzilla, and Monsters. He directed and wrote it along with Chris Weitz, who also wrote Rogue One, but also About a Boy, Nutty Professor 2, Ants, and The Bad New Pinocchio. It's an original-ish sci-fi movie about a future war between humans and AI. John David Washington plays a jaded soldier who is sent to recover a dangerous weapon from the AI side, which turns out to be in the image of a robot child. But the man takes pity on her and runs away with her. I say it's an original-ish movie because, well, it's not based on any IP, but also the story isn't exactly original either. The ideas of a future war between humans and robots and a soldier questioning the people he works for are not new. There are very few surprises in this movie, but what makes it good is the way that this story is told. Gareth Edwards makes it feel cinematic. It feels a lot like Rogue One with the world it creates, a place that's full of advanced sci-fi technology but also feels very gritty. In my opinion, the most interesting parts of this world building were in the opening montage, where it's like a sort of old-timey film newsreel but about advanced technology. I'd like to say it feels like Fallout, but I unfortunately haven't played any of the games yet. It feels like what I've seen in the Fallout games. But what really elevates it is the special effects. This is probably one of the most convincing sci-fi fantasy worlds of the year, and it didn't even cost a lot of money. Apparently the budget was $80 million. Meanwhile, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania cost $200 million, and it looks way worse than this. But the creator also looks better than big-budgeted movies that don't look fake as shit. The crew decided to use that money wisely, and also probably not rush their visual effects artists. This isn't too special from the story standpoint, but it's great from the technical aspect. And the soldier and the kid have pretty good chemistry too. It probably won't win any Oscars for writing, but it will surely be a strong contender for the technical aspects. It's a movie that looks great while telling a story that's passable.
You'll have a great time in New York City, east side of town, at the Hotel Seville. We do great cooking, honey. We'll treat you right.
We know you'll love your bill.
Remember, in New York City, Hotel Seville.
Your friendly home away from home.
Our friendly home away from home.
Madison Avenue and 29th Street. Call 532-4100.
Continental, from the world of John Wick, now streaming on Peacock, is from creators Greg Coolidge, Sean Simmons, and Kirk Ward. And it's a mini-series prequel to the franchise that it mentions in the part of the title that most people probably don't even know that it's part of the title. It takes place in the 70s and centers around the future owner of the Continental Hotel, a safe house for the kind of criminal activity that John Wick gets into. It's only 3 episodes, but each episode is feature film length. The lower end of feature film length, but still. Which I guess kinda sucks for binge watchers, and also for people who just want to watch one episode. It's not as long as the most recent season of Stranger Things, but it's also kinda worse because it's not nearly as interesting. The longer episodes only emphasize how relatively bland it is. But I'm being a little hard on it. Much like the movies, it's about the action. And these fight scenes are almost as good as anything in the movies. The show is intense, violent, and has a lot of 70s needle drops, and it has some world building to the franchise which I'm sure the die-hard fans will love, or at least be somewhat interested in. It does unfortunately feel a little lesser without its title character. I mean, the world is interesting and all, but John Wick is kind of the heart of John Wick, and the show doesn't really have anything really satisfactory to replace them with. The characters are okay, I guess, but it all just seems so just okay. I wasn't overly bored while watching them, but I didn't really care about them either. They weren't particularly cool or interesting. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying any John Wick installment without Keanu is doomed to fail. That upcoming ballerina spin-off with Ana de Armas might be good, but this particular one is a big step down. Also interesting how the most well-known actor went from the guy that everybody loves to the guy that everybody hates. Yep, Mel Gibson is here. As the bad guy, though. And he's not terrible either. This role takes advantage of 2 sad truths about him. 1, he is unfortunately talented, and 2, he's not a good person. But the action and world building is enough to make it worth a recommendation. The final episode is probably the best, which is predictable since it's the climax episode and therefore the most intense. They saved the best stuff for last. It just sucks that it isn't as good as it could have been. This year, the franchise has had both a long installment that's one of its strongest, if not the strongest, and an even longer one that's one of its weakest. It's not without its strengths, but it can't help but feel like a disappointment.